My name is Phil Heslop. I'm a Senior Computing Officer who works for the Digital Institute over in Culture Lab.
My name's Dan Jackson. I've been working in the iLab for around 2 years now.
My name's Professor David Leet.
My name is Ola Piktina and I'm a PhD student at Newcastle University.
I'm Scott Windiat. I'm a senior lecturer in School of Education, Communication and Language Sciences.
My name is Nufazlinda Ishak. I'm a PhD candidate.
My name's Gavin Wood. I'm the mobile developer on the Social Inclusion Project as part of the wider digital economy.
I'm Saad Al-Mutiri. I'm doing a PhD in iLab.
My name is Madeline and I am a lecturer in interaction design within the School of Computing Science.
I am Jaber Muslamani. I'm a PhD student for Applied Linguistics.
So my name is Claire Hooper. I've been working with iLab since I first came to Newcastle University in January, so that's 3 months ago.
Well, my name is Sugata Mitra. I'm a Professor of Educational Technology.
Hi, my name's Paul Seedhouse and I'm co-director of iLab Learn.
I'm Anne Preston and I'm a research associate in iLab Learn. iLab Learn is a practice-based research lab which supports and promotes research and development of digital technology in learning and education. It combines the expertise of staff and students in pedagogic theory and practice and computing science.
Well, the first project that we had was the French Digital Kitchen project, and the reason we started with French was that that's the international language of cuisine. And then we wanted to move to other languages, and English is an obvious one, it's a world language, so I was very glad that Linda chose to investigate English.
Back in my home country, I'm attached to one of the polytechnics, and in polytechnics in Malaysia we have a hospitality department, so I thought it's a very good idea to use the kitchen because we have courses whereby we train students to become chefs, so I thought it's very pertinent to what I'm gonna do when I go back to my home country.
Well, it's now quite easy for an incoming student to use the kitchen to develop materials for a completely different language. Let's say Chinese as a world language cuisine, and Arabic as well would be another example. And we're working on setting up authoring tools to make it really quite easy for people to program the kitchen for whatever kind of language and cuisine they want. So we'd say it's a great opportunity for PhD students to work in different languages.
So my PhD is called Digital Technology and Play Therapy, and as a part of this I designed and evaluated the software called Magicland for the use with primary school children in their play therapy sessions. And this was developed by Gavin Wood, who's done the great job on it. He's actually programmed the software.
Well, my background for maybe the last 5 or 7 years is working with real computer games in the commercial market. And what I tried to do with Ola and what we did together was we brought my background into play therapy. So I'm used to working with children and games and making an experience that's fun. And in what Ola's trying to do, she wants that experience to be fun as well.
I'm doing my PhD on tabletop technology, and I want to see how this emergent technology can be used for collaborative strategic reading within computer-assisted language learning.
I've been researching the use of computers for language learning for about 30 years, so I have a very broad range of interests and a broad range of topics that I've researched over these years. At the moment, though, I have 4 main interests. One, of course, is tabletop computing with Jabber, the use of tabletop computing for language learning.
Tabletop technology can be used for reading and writing at the same time. So we could see how the tablet can be used for, the process of reading and writing, and how this collaborative strategic reading can be helpful while using the tabletop. How can it be helpful for writing process with regard to second language learning?
My background is in English language teaching and education, and technology for me was a passion, was an interest. So I found this project a very interesting way of doing technology with language education.
And technology really introduces the possibility of shifting the teacher slightly out of the way and introducing a kind of new relationship between the student, the learner, and the subject to be learned.
Well, I think it's a very nice environment, having like-minded people doing similar projects in the same place and having the technology around us all the time and having our own space. I think it's a very interesting and enriching experience. You know, the discussions that evolves and the intellectual kind of development we go through. I think it's a very enriching experience for us.
Yeah, so I've got two hats when it comes to iLab really. The first one I talked about already is that I'm a technical support person for some of the specialist equipment that we have over in the iLab, such as the kitchen and the tabletops and things like that. But my second hat is I'm also a PhD researcher who's doing a PhD part-time, and my PhD is on education using the digital tabletops. Well, my PhD is in computer science, but without this access to iLab and the expertise of the people within iLab, it would have been a very one-sided PhD without the educational input. So my supervisor team, some of them are members of iLab. David Leet is my second supervisor, and they've basically given me the educational half of my PhD, which has very much got a foot in each camp between computer science and education.
The Culture Lab is a very interdisciplinary research environment, and the nice thing about the relationship with iLab is it gives us an opportunity to take the applications that we've been developing and actually see how they might work in a grounded real-world setting. It's also advantageous because the guys in iLab, of course, have got that educational theoretical background, so the work is informed not only by the technological knowledge but by the educational information.
I think it's a really great avenue to use some of our technologies. For example, the work on tabletops or some of the ubiquitous computing work where we have sensors in the environment, we can actually apply them and actually see them used in something.
So I'm a computer scientist by training, but I think of myself as an interdisciplinary person, and last year I was in an industrial design background. And this particular job was very much about helping out with this piece of work between the two labs, which is using computing technology in an educational setting, which really appealed to me in terms of looking at application of technology.
It's a really interesting research agenda around how you might use technologies in the classroom, and I'll use a buzzword here to help a teacher orchestrate the teaching and learning interactions that are going on there. So there's emotional awareness, which you could do through the subtle stone or through other types of technology. But you might also, there might be interesting projects where a teacher could start reflecting on where they're spending their time in the classroom, which students they're looking at, which students they're not looking at, the type of tone of voice that they're using. You might have technologies that could help the teacher know how long students in the classroom have been waiting for assistance, or whether a child is stuck on a particular task. I think there's, for me, there's a lot of interesting possibilities that technology could sort of start help teachers better manage that classroom experience. But as someone who's passionate about user-centered design and participatory design, for me it's really about involving students and teachers in thinking about, given what technology can do, what would we want it to do in the classroom, what would be useful for you.
So combination of self-organized learning and remote presence forms viable way for children who do not have access to good schools or good teachers. The questions that I'm working on right now, the research questions, are that if this is the case, if children can teach themselves pretty complicated things by themselves, they need only one ability, the ability to read and understand. So, a logical new question is, can children learn to read by themselves? Because if they can, you've turned the system upside down. I proposed this question along with Nicholas Negroponte of the MIT Media Lab. And as a result, I now spend about 6 months a year at the MIT Media Lab as a visiting professor, trying to answer the question, can children learn to read by themselves? And well, the answer is going to be found here, in between the iLab and the MIT Media Lab, by somebody, most likely a young person.
I think we've barely begun to scratch the surface in all of these areas. So I think there's a lot of scope for students to come here and work with us in these projects, for staff in other parts of the university, perhaps looking at other languages, for example, in relation to some of these projects.
There's a lot of room in the field of HCI and working with children. For example, there's children in hospitals that are less mobile, or they might be ill, and tabletops, digital technologies, give them experiences that maybe they can't have at that time.
We're not just interested in technology for technology's sake, we're interested in what difference it makes to learning for students in all sorts of contexts.
And basically we want as many staff and students to be involved as possible, because the technology is here, it's really cutting edge technology, it gives you an advantage in terms of originality for your research and publications, and we want people to come and work on projects with us, with the people from computing science, and make the most of this fantastic technology.
So how do you get involved in iLab Learn? Well, postgraduate research students on the EdD, iPhD and PhD pathways are encouraged to write proposals based on the installations you've seen in this film. Prospective students at the university are also welcome to apply and can do so by contacting one of the members of staff that you've seen in the film.
The iLab's work on education is actually considered quite groundbreaking, very new, very much in tune with the cloud infrastructure that exists in our world today, which most educational institutions don't actually leverage. We intend to do that here in this lab with the help of students, researchers, and of course academic staff. I run a course called Information and Communication Technologies for Development, particularly with reference to children. And in this course we eventually look at the future of learning and where it's headed. There are many exciting questions about what it all means when children have access continuously and all the time. I sometimes put it to students in this way: if you had access to Google continuously, broadband, and if there was no way to tell that you're accessing Google, it's inside your eyes or something like that, what happens to education? What happens to examinations? Everything has to change, and if we are lucky, it'll change from here.